Welcome back to Plugged In with Seeff Properties. I'm so excited for today's episode because I'm here today with Dabilo and we're both representing Seeff Properties, which is so awesome. But she knows a little bit more than most of us do when it comes to valuations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really act like I don't know much so that she can guide us on exactly how this works. Hi Dabilo.
Hi Galyn.
I'm so glad to have you here
Thank
today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
That's exciting. I know that you are the go-to when we need to know about valuations.
Yes.
So I want to start off pretending like I have no idea what a valuation is, especially for those who are also a little bit confused.
Okay.
And maybe you can guide us literally from the start.
Okay.
So what is a valuation?
Okay. Property valuation essentially tells you what your property is worth on the market.
Okay.
That's the basic explanation that I can give.
So basically the price at which it can be sold?
The price at which it can be sold.
Okay.
So it is a guidance or it's a guideline in terms of how much your property is worth on the open market.
Okay.
Now, valuations you can do for different purposes. The reasons why you would get a valuation in most cases is because you're looking for a mortgage. Okay. A mortgage is a loan from the bank. I mean, property loans are called mortgages. So it informs the bank in terms of, so if you want money for this property, how much is the property worth, so that we can know how much to finance you or how much to give you. So if you already own a house and you want to refinance that house, you want more money, you want to get equity out of that house, or you want to get money out of that house, what you would do is you would get a valuation to inform the bank what your property is worth
at the current stage.
At the current date, and then the bank would decide how much they can give you.
So valuations tend to always increase of a property. Let's say I bought a property 10 years ago and it's now 10 years and you're saying that I get a new valuation for equity. It should be technically a higher valuation.
That's an interesting question.
Okay.
Because it's not always the case. It depends on what the market is doing at the time. Okay. So now, for example, now there are a lot of properties that were valued, say, around 2013 when the property market was quite high.
There was the boom.
Or they were sold, it was the boom.
Okay, yeah.
Properties were sold at prices that are now unachievable. So now in 2021, we're finding, obviously also with the COVID issue, we're finding that property values have gone down. Okay. But technically, or I think traditionally, the property values would go up.
I see. Okay, so that's excellent. That's information that we definitely need to know. When else would we possibly need to get a valuation done on a property?
Okay, so the first one I talked about is to do with mortgages. The second thing is you would also need a valuation to get your property insured. So if you're looking for insurance, the insurer needs to know how much they should cover in terms of the value of your property, or the insurance replacement value of your property. And then based on that insurance value, they can calculate the premium to charge you on a monthly or annual basis. So that's another purpose that you do a valuation for.
And then I'm asking this as a personal thing as well, because let's say, for example, your last valuation was actually when you bought the property.
Right.
And you've owned the property for some years, so your insurance is based on that old valuation.
Right.
How often would you suggest or advise people to get their property valued for insurance purposes?
Look, I think the insurance companies have their own kind of standards, but I think I would say 3 years, every 3 years.
Wow, really?
Or so, yeah.
Oops.
Because the insurance value does change. Because remember, your insurance replacement value is basically telling you how much it would cost to redevelop that property. So if this building was to burn down, how much would we spend? How much would we expect to spend to rebuild it? Okay. So you've got to remember also that on that basis, property construction material, the prices change.
They do.
So as the prices escalate and all of that, it means obviously that your property also is going to cost more to build, which means you're underinsured. If you've had the same insurance figure for the last 5-10 years, then you're definitely underinsured, or you most possibly underinsured.
That is absolutely excellent advice, especially for myself. I promise you I haven't done my replacement, I think, for 6 years.
So, and the other thing that I want to mention while we're on insurance is people also don't like, about a year ago, I got my 83-year-old father to insure his house in Mahalape, because people in the villages don't insure, they don't think about insurance. And yet, you know, things were happening. We had those big floods in the villages and things like this, and your property gets damaged. So people mustn't think that property insurance is something to consider only if you're in town or if you're, you know,
the city
in
or
the
that
city.
sort of thing.
Everybody must insure their property.
Absolutely.
Against damage,
I find that you have given very good advice today, because that time when we did have those floods, so many people were struggling because their roof was blown away or a tree fell on their property. So basically, just to summarize, a valuation is not only for when you're purchasing a property, but also to have in place for when you need to have the price evaluated, for when you need insurance. So that's great. I appreciate that. Then valuations are quite complex, aren't they? For a layman like me, let's say. So there's 3 values that you put on a valuation. What are those?
So the first value you will find is the market value. So that's the one that says, you know, we suggest or recommend that the property could be sold on the market at this price. So say 1 million. The second value that you will see is the forced sale value. So the forced sale value says, if there are extenuating circumstances, or this person had to suddenly leave the country, or something happened that is forcing them to sell, and they're not, it's an emergency, then that's the second value. And it's not always, it's usually definitely lower than the market value because of the extenuating circumstances. And then the third one that you'll see is the insurance replacement value.
So when you do the valuation, so we have the for sale, we have the market value, and the insurance. Are these regulated? Are you, as a valuer, guided in terms of market prices, or how does that work?
Okay, so that's quite a broad question. I think I will tackle it in a couple of ways. The first thing I want to say is we actually have international valuation standards that we are all supposed to adhere to. We work according to requirements and regulations as per the valuation standards. So you can't, it's not like you can just walk in willy-nilly and decide, look at a house and say, no, it's 3 million pula. There are a number of things that you have to look at. I mean, the reason why you're valuing is one of them. And then there are so many variables with the valuation, like the location of the property, what's in the surroundings, what's in the areas around the property. You know, is the road tarred to get there? Is it a dirt road? You've got to look at what the property is. Is it residential? Is it industrial, commercial? Is it a shop? There are also different methods to valuation. So the most common one with residential properties is the comparable method, where you're looking at other properties in the market, how the sale trends are going. So the deeds registry, where all the properties are registered, is a big source of information for us, because that's where we go to look at comparables to say houses in the Gulf Estate in Pakalani of this size are generally selling at 10 million or at 2 million or whatever it is. And then you can use that information to kind of arrive at your market valuation. Also, it's other things like, you know, how old the property is, the construction material. There's a difference if the house is roofed with concrete tiles and as opposed to corrugated roof sheets,
so finishes,
for example. So finishes
make a big difference.
That's the construction materials. So you apply different rates to the different materials. So yeah, it's a process. I don't think it's complicated because I've done it for so long and I know it. But it would be complicated. I can understand why it would be complicated to someone else. But the other thing that I also want to mention while we're there is that you've got to deal with registered, REAC registered and re-registered valuers, because then you know that if you have an issue with your valuation or if you have concerns, you can always, you know, talk to somebody at REAC or REB and say, you know, this value I wasn't happy with.
Okay.
The third thing is you also want to give your valuer as much information as you can on your property. So the title deed of the property is an important document that we use, because off the title deed we get the size of the land, and then we get all the conditions that are in the title, that, you know, if it's a lease, it's not the same as if it's freehold and things like that.
Yes,
exactly. So the more information you can give, the better. You know, if there's a servitude, so if you own a piece of land and a portion of it is actually a road for everybody else around you to use, you need to give the valuer the information on the servitude and things like that. Yeah.
So information is key here.
Information is critical. So the more information the valuer can get to put into their process, the better.